Welcome. So, in front of you, you can see four images. Each of them represents a top secret of mindful conflict resolution, which I'm going to be sharing with you in just a few moments. So, please tune in right now. So, first one, in the left corner, we could see a little tuning fork. And that tool represents tuning inward in conflict. Now, if you take nothing else from this webinar, I invite you to consider to start tuning in whenever stressful situations arise in life, and especially whenever you are experiencing conflict. Why? Well, because when we are triggered, when we are in conflict, there is something happens with our brain. Our brain actually believes that we're being chased by a tiger. So what happens? We enter into what's called fight or flight reaction. That means that we actually become incapable of connecting with other people, of critical thinking, of analyzing. Most of our brain function gets transferred to the brain stem, the smallest area of the brain. That brain stem allows us to fight or flight, but really makes us incapable of doing anything else. But if we take a moment and are able to tune inward in conflict, our brain becomes calm. A calm brain is an engaged brain, a brain that can exercise critical thinking, that can connect. So that is why in conflict, the first and the most important thing we want to do is to tune inward. And the way we can do it is actually through a very simple breathing technique that you see on your screen. So why don't we practice it right now? When you can, just gently close your eyes and begin to tune into your breath. Notice the inhales. Notice the colder air entering the nostrils. And notice the exhales, the warmer air leaving the nostrils. Letting the breath move in one smooth, continuous motion. Inhale transitions to exhale. Exhale transitions to inhale. Pausing as little as possible and consciously making your breathing deeper, engaging the chest, the stomach, and even the pelvic floor as you breathe. And as you're breathing with your eyes closed, bringing into your awareness a simple 4-word phrase: I am here now. As you inhale, thinking of the word I. As you exhale, thinking of the word am. As you inhale, thinking of the word here. As you exhale, thinking of the word now. I am here now. And just giving yourself few moments to practice that. And when you're done practicing, take a deep inhale, hold the breath for just a moment, and as you exhale, gently blink your eyes open. So, how did it feel? As I mentioned to you before, breathing, tuning in conflict, is one of the most important tools you can practice. In fact, I invite you to make the connected breathing technique part of your daily life. There are few things in life we can guarantee, but I guarantee you your life will change, and certainly the way you are in conflict will change if you start practicing the connected breathing technique. Perhaps try practicing it when you first wake up for 10 minutes. Make it the first thing you do in the morning, and make it the last thing you do before you go to sleep. Breathe, tune into your breath, and connect with the four simple words. I am here now. Now, moving on to the next top secret of mindful conflict resolution. And this one is a little bit more challenging to guess. We have two figurines. One figure is holding a mirror to the other. And what this tool represents is observation without evaluation. Now, the reason we have two figures and one holding a mirror is because it has to do with the way we listen to other people in conflict. As you can see on your screen, Jiddu Krishnamurti, one of the greatest Indian intellectuals of the 20th century, said, "Observation without evaluation is the highest form of intelligence." Now, this has to do with the way we listen to other people in conflict. Think about it. Most of the time, when we're in conflict, evaluation is actually the very first and the most common thing that we do. So the key here is, once we learn to tune inward, we begin to notice and observe how we are in conflict. So just start noticing how often you evaluate as opposed to just listen. And then, once you do notice, start actively listening. What does it mean to listen actively? It means listening with our entire body. So we tune in, we connect with our breath, we connect with our body, we open the chest, and then we just listen, taking our own ideas, taking our own story, taking everything that we bring away. The next step of that is to actually start reflecting what the other person is saying. When we talk about reflecting, we are not talking about just repeating word for word of what they said. Rather, it's about tuning in and focusing on the energy, on the emotion behind their words. So as you interact with your loved ones, in and especially out of conflict, start practicing listening to them without evaluating what they're saying. And then slowly begin to practice reflection. Hold a mirror to them. Don't worry about getting all the facts, all the details, but really tune in, really focus on the energy, on the emotion behind the words. Again, this is one of those tools that takes some practice, but if you do start practicing it, I guarantee you will see how your interactions in conflict and actually your interactions in life just begin to change. You start connecting with people on a different level. Which brings us to our next tool. And that's an image of the Earth as we were looking at it from space. And what this tool is talking about, what this secret is expansion. Now, generally in conflict, our focus becomes very, very narrow. We focus very, very narrow on past wrongs, on what he, she, they have done to us, or perhaps on their position. And the invitation here is to go beyond that. In talking about expansion, I use an image of a peeled orange. And this is because there is a story in a book called Getting to Yes by Roger Urey and William Fisher of Harvard Negotiation Project. And in the book, they tell a story of two children fighting over an orange. And they're fighting with each other and escalating and just repeating, restating, I want the orange, no, I want the orange, I want the orange, I want the orange. And it just keeps going back and forth, no end in sight. So their father hears this and he walks into the room and he puts his hands up and says, enough, 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 the two of you. And says to them, give me the knife. Give me the knife. I'm just going to take this orange and cut it in half, and each of you is going to have half the orange, and you can go your separate way. And then their mom hears that, and she walks into the room and she says, oh, hang on a second, just hold on. Can I ask both of you, why do you need the orange? So she asks that. One says, well, I actually want to bake. I found this new recipe that uses orange rinds to bake. And then the other one says, Mom, I am interested in juicing, so I need the pulp to juice. Of course, the point of the story is that there is a solution that can satisfy the interest of both without taking away from either one. As great as this story is, I am here to tell you that this story is incomplete. It assumes several things that are just not true. It assumes that we're dealing, for example, with rational actors who can easily identify their interests, express them fully, and be satisfied. We are also assuming that these two children have no history with each other and have no feeling, needs, values beyond their apparent interests. Well, guess what? That's not true. That's not how real conflicts work. However, asking the question why begins the process of expansion in conflict. So when we are in conflict with someone, one of the most important things we can do is start expanding, going beyond that person's position, going to their interests, going to their values, and finally, going to their needs. This is where we start getting to something very, very deep, as we will discuss in just a moment. So positions are really just a very, very superficial level, just the tip of the iceberg. Going beyond positions to interest, yes, we're going just a little bit deeper, but we're still really very much above the surface. The key in conflict is to start going beyond those things. Start going beyond the surface to feelings, really connecting with someone's feelings, with someone's energy. What is behind their words? Moving in to that individual's values. Our values are our connection to our cultural conditioning. And of course, from there, moving to the most important level, to the level of needs. Ultimately, no matter where we come from, no matter what is our conditioning, no matter what our views or beliefs, or even feelings and values are, we all have identical needs. And in talking about the needs, I use our chakras because I believe we have 7 fundamental needs that each of us must have in life to be fulfilled. And these needs, we have them on an energetic level. And that is why I use the image of chakras to talk about our needs. So let's just take a moment and talk about it. So when we starting from the bottom, looking at the base chakra, the first chakra, is our need for security. And this is where I would include all of our physical needs, but also the need for this body to be safe, the need for safety, the need for basic for basic things that make our life work: shelter, food, water, basic security. That's just something that we need to stay alive. From there, the second chakra is our need for autonomy. Every single one of us has a need for basic autonomy, for basic freedom, where we have agency over our own decisions. We have agency over what happens to us. That is absolutely critical. That's a critical need for all of us. From there, moving up, we go to the need for honesty. I would also equate it with the need for authenticity. Think about it. Any time that we are doing something that is not really true to ourselves, there is a physical sensation, unpleasant discomfort that we're feeling that's telling us that our need, and generally we're feeling it in the area of our stomach. We can feel it in our stomach, and that's where our need for authenticity, for honesty, is not being met. Moving up to the heart, we all have a need for connection. Connection on a very, very deep level. In fact, with the need for connection, there are multiple layers. But that's a fundamental need that we have. Moving up to the throat chakra, we have a fundamental need for beauty and harmony in our lives. Just think about it. Sometimes we go to perhaps the mountains, or see something that is so beautiful, it takes our speech and breath away. And somehow we just melt into that beauty. It represents our fundamental need to connect with that beauty. From there, moving to our third eye, we have a fundamental need for meaning. And that is the question of, what does our life stand for? What do we derive meaning from? This is actually beginning to go even beyond this physical form. What is it that makes our existence as this being, meaningful in this life? And finally, we have a fundamental need for expansion. Expansion beyond where we are. Expansion, again, even beyond this physical form. Now, there is a whole lot more we can say on these needs. In this short introductory webinar, all I want to tell you and tell you is just to become aware of these needs. I want you to just start thinking about how basic and fundamental and ever present these needs are for all individuals. As you start questioning people and asking the questions, why? Tell me more. Why is this important to you? And we start getting to this level of needs, the conversation fundamentally changes. We are now able to have a much, much, much deeper conversation. If we're able to invoke and talk about how to meet these most basic, most fundamental, and most important needs that each and every one of us has. And sometimes in conflict, it's just important to remember that we're on a tiny planet, tiny dot rotating through space. Just having that perspective is critical. So just maintaining that perspective, that there is a bigger picture, no matter what we're dealing with, no matter how severe the circumstance, no matter how important we think this conflict situation is. That's the ultimate expansion. And moving on to the fourth top secret of mindful conflict resolution. I don't know how well can you see on your screen, but there is a picture of a man in a circle. And I will tell you that that man is Marco Polo. Marco Polo is one of the greatest explorers who's ever lived. And so the fourth secret of mindful conflict resolution is exploration. And when we're engaging our exploration, we are just becoming very curious. And we engage a different part of our brain. We engage the prefrontal cortex, the largest part of our brain, the part of the brain that allows us to be creative, to really connect with other people. And this is where we just become very, very curious and allow ourselves to explore possibilities going forward. If we can engage with conflict with curiosity and just explore, use it as an opportunity to explore, then actually conflict becomes almost fun. It opens up all these possibilities that can happen that we learn about. So there are several ways that I'd like to invite to consider exploring. The first one, as you see at the bottom of your screen, there is a picture of little light bulbs and other light bulbs coming out from each other. And that image stands for brainstorming. Now, sometimes in brainstorm, it can be very tempting to again immediately evaluate someone's ideas or and further reject them. Remember what we talked about earlier: observation without evaluation. And here we just are going one step further. The invitation is to start throwing ideas without evaluating them. Very often when I work with people in conflict, I just invite them to start throwing ideas. Sometimes let them be crazy ideas. Let them be ideas that are not really workable. It doesn't matter. We can always come back and evaluate them later. But inviting that creativity, starting throwing out ideas, and staying away from evaluating can really shift the energy in conflict. It can shift the energy from grievances and past wrongs to exploration, to creativity. And guess what? Sometimes it's the craziest ideas that end up working best for everyone. Another way of exploring, and this is where we go into the world of unicorns and rainbows, is to ask, what would things look like in the ideal world? Yes, I know maybe it's difficult, sometimes it's difficult to imagine, but what would things look like in the ideal world? And then what can we do to get there. Again, don't believe anything that I say, just try. Try doing it in your own conflicts. Shift that focus from past grievances to the possibility that actually the ideal vision, the ideal world can happen in your own case, and start painting a picture, very, very specific picture of exactly what would that ideal vision look like. You never know. You may actually get it. And the third tool of exploration, the third way of exploring, is called future casting. And this is where we use the car, the DeLorean, from the film Back to the Future. So again, in conflict, we focus so much on the past wrongs, and the grievances, on what he, she, they have done to us. And it's so important to shift out of it and to start thinking about the future. Okay, where do we go from here? How do we want this relationship to look like 5, 6, 10 years from now? Zooming out, as we just saw with the camera, allowing ourselves to see the bigger picture. It can help us move through difficult conflict situations. Because once we realize what's important for us in the future, what do we want the situation to be like in the future, then perhaps we don't have to focus so much on the details that are keeping us stuck. Now, with exploration, there is one word of caution that I'd like to share with you. And that word of caution is expressed in this cartoon that you see on your screen. So, a man is drowning and he's yelling to his dog, Lassie, Lassie, get help. And in the next image, Lassie is getting help in the psychologist's office. So the key when we're doing exploration is to still keep it grounded and detailed enough that it allows us to create a very, very specific picture. Think about it. How often do we use vague generalities like, all I want is just to be in peace, or all I want is just my partner to be respectful to me? But what do these things mean? Respect, peace, all these things mean very, very different things to different people and can have many, many different connotations. So don't be afraid to create an image, to create a picture, to create a movie of respect, peace, or whatever else may be important to you or to your conflict partner that is specific to you. Create it, truly become the director. Create the sound, the smell, create the image so that you know and your conflict partners know exactly what to move towards to. So I hope you find these top secrets of mindful conflict resolution useful. I know for me, working with hundreds of individuals in conflict around the world, using these tools allowed me to transform conflict into an opportunity for growth, connection, and dialogue. Thank you.